Hey, welcome back to day 4 of Project Me. Today I'm doing a little bit earlier in the day, partly for 3 reasons, I think. Firstly, because I don't have much else going on the rest of the day, so it's likely that things won't be changing very much from when I do it now to a few hours from now. Secondly, I have something I just want to get off my chest. And thirdly, I'm a little bit sick, and so I'd rather just do this now while I can still speak without a sore throat, because I can feel it forming. Which reminds me I should be drinking water, so do that afterwards. In any case, let's get right into it. So, the first thing I want to get off my chest, we'll just do the daily update and this will come into it. Yesterday I talked about my flatmates and how I need to get better at addressing certain issues and not bottling it up. And this, I suppose, is a flow-on of that. So yesterday, we were just having dinner, my flatmates and I, and we're having mac and cheese, and somehow the conversation got turned on to what constitutes a mac and cheese. And so we were debating, whether adding vegetables into mac and cheese still makes it a mac and cheese, whether adding bacon into mac and cheese still makes it a mac and cheese. And we got hung up on these points. I was making the argument that, well, at least I tried, I keep getting interrupted. I was trying to make the argument that adding things into mac and cheese, you might see it as a mac and cheese, but it's not actually mac and cheese. And what I'm trying to say is comparing it to a square and a rectangle. A square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square. So when you have a mac and cheese, when you think of a mac and cheese, you think of that specific type of pasta, and you think of the cheesy sauce that encompasses it, right? Anything else you add into it kind of detracts from that. So I'm saying you could add, say, vegetables into a mac and cheese. It would still be a mac and cheese when you consider that it's just a mac and cheese and you add the vegetables. But it's not a mac and cheese when you compare it to the original idea of a mac and cheese, which is specifically pasta and cheese. And I was just trying to make that point that you can have different classes of things you add into mac and cheese, and it's, in a sense, still mac and cheese because you still have the fundamental ingredients, but the nature of the mac and cheese has changed because you've added something new into it. So, on the one hand, you can consider it, and on the one hand, you can't. So, I was trying to make that argument that it's not everything is a mac and cheese, even though it has mac and cheese in it. I hope that makes sense. I'm not even sure I made sense when I said it yesterday, but frankly, I couldn't actually say it yesterday because I kept getting interrupted, which leads me on to what I'm actually driving at, is that why I was trying to make my point, and my flatmate kept interrupting me, and that made me not angry, but a little bit frustrated. I felt very frustrated because, as I've spoken about before, I have that crippling fear of inadequacy, and if I feel inadequate when, for example, someone interrupts me because it makes me feel like they don't care what I have to say or that I have nothing valuable to contribute to the discussion. So when she kept interrupting me, that frustrated me. And so in that action, she kind of activated like a fight or flight response in me. So either I can flight, I can run away, or I can shrink and disengage from the conversation, or I can fight. I can be a little bit more assertive, aggressive, raise my voice, for example. And in the heat of the moment, I chose fight. I raised my voice, and frankly, I don't even remember doing this. I don't recall doing it. I pointed my finger at her, which I didn't realize I did, if I did it, but I think I did, until she stopped the conversation. She said, "Don't point your finger at me." And that killed it for me. I am very disappointed in myself for doing that. I didn't realize I did it. So that's been killing me. Because it'd be one thing if I knew I did it, because I can work on, not doing it. But the fact that I didn't even realize I did it, and I did it, means that I need to work on being more conscious of how I use my hands, which is a little bit harder than the alternative. And what I'm really driving at is that this is something I need to discuss with her. I need to talk about it because, one, I'm going to start the conversation that I need to have with her, that I will have with her. I'm going to start it with, hey, look, I'm really sorry I pointed my finger at you yesterday. I didn't realize I did it. I'm really disappointed in myself. It's killing me. I'm going to try not to do that ever again. I'm going to work very hard because it's not something I want to do. It's not something I was aware of, and I'm disappointed in myself for doing that. Secondly, that said, we need to work on a better way to handle discussions, because in the past I've noticed that there is a pattern of interrupting me when I speak, and regardless of your reasons for it, it does make me feel very inadequate. It makes me feel like I don't have anything valuable or anything to contribute to the conversation. It makes me feel like what I have to offer is worthless. Whether you actually believe that or not is something else entirely, because that's simply the way that I feel when this happens. So going forward, when I'm interrupted, I am just going to leave the room. I'm not going to take it. I think that's what I need to do. I need to set myself that boundary. And this might be the first step in a lot of things, because I need to start speaking generally, not just about this. I need to start taking responsibility for how I deal with things. I can't keep bottling it up, and so setting boundaries is that first act of responsibility, I suppose. So that's the thing I wanted to get off my chest. Besides that, so it was a good night. I set myself the boundary of working a little bit more, and then I stopped and I just played some games for an hour and a half or so before I went to bed. That was good. I think I needed that rest. And then this morning I went off to class early. I had a special seminar I had to go to for torts law. And then after that I went out to a coffee with an alumni of my old high school who works in the diplomatic corps, which I'm interested in. So we had a good chat. Glad I ran into him again, because back during COVID, I video chatted him to ask about some questions about the diplomatic corps and all that, and it was just nice to catch up. And the reason I caught up with him now of all times was because last week I ran into someone who was in his former posting overseas with him, and it just reminded me that I could call on him to have a coffee and just catch up. So really glad for that. And so now let's go through our daily reflection with Ryan Holiday. Let's see, today is April 19th. Okay. Our sphere of impulses, and this is a quote by Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. Epictetus says we must discover the missing art of ascent and pay special attention to the sphere of our impulses, that they are subject to reservation, to the common good, and that they are in proportion to actual worth. So what I'm getting out of this is that we need to take a step back, and I feel like I say take a step back for every one of these quotes, but I think that's just a really good principle. Every time something affects you, take a step back and look at it from the outside. Now think of it objectively. But in any case, back to this. We need to give ourselves permission sometimes. Discover the art of missing out of the sense of pay attention. Yeah, we need to give ourselves permission to act certain ways, I think. Yeah. Anyways, let's see what Ryan Holiday has to say about this. Here we have the emperor, the most powerful man in the world, quoting in his diary the wisdom of a former slave. And from what we know, Marcus might have had direct notes from Epictetus' lectures via one of his former students. That wisdom was ultimately about surrender and serving the common good, about the limits of our power and the importance of checking our impulses, which is what I was driving at, I think. Something every person in authority needs to hear. Power and powerlessness seem so rarely to enter the same orbit, but when they do, it can change the world. Think about President Abraham Lincoln meeting with, corresponding with, and learning from Frederick Douglass, another former slave of considerable wisdom and insight. In any case, all those men lived by the principles expressed here, that in our lives, whether we're experiencing great power or powerlessness, it's critical to leave room for what may happen, and keep the common good and the actual worth of things front and center. And above all, be willing to regard be willing to learn from anyone and everyone, regardless of their station in life. I think that's just a good rule to follow. Learning from everyone. I think everyone has something to offer you, even if it might not seem like it at the outset. For example, let's relate it back to the events of yesterday. My flatmate, who I got into this, we'll call it a fight with, she is brilliant she's brilliant at humor, although very often it's deprecating humor to other people, which I'm not a fan of, and I should actually mention that as well. She's very good at humor. She's very good at articulating what she thinks, and even though sometimes she can be very difficult to be around, I think she has a lot of wisdom and common sense that she has within her, and that I'd be very grateful to learn from. So there we go. But anyways, let's get on to gratitude, and then we'll close this video up. So first of all, I'm grateful to the man I met for coffee today. I'm not going to say his name. Just a wonderful guy. Really glad that I connected with him to begin with, and really glad that he said yes to a coffee. I actually emailed him offering him a cup of coffee, but it turns out he bought me the coffee today, or rather hot chocolate in my case. But just a good guy in general. Really grateful to have him around, and he seemed to enjoy it, seemed to be willing to have another coffee another time, so I hope he did. I hope he enjoyed it. But really grateful to have him around. Secondly, really grateful to my flatmate. She is a wonderful person, and we do have our differences, but I am really glad that I met her and I have her in my life. Thirdly, what am I grateful for? Maybe we'll make this one more general, just because nothing specific nothing really specific has happened in the last day. Let's just be in general. So I'm grateful to one of my friends, we'll call her Quinn. She is just a wonderful human being. She's a very odd one, actually. She takes psychology. Automatic red flag, I know, but she takes psychology. But she's so, how do I describe her? She's such a curious case. She's very fun to be around. I never quite know what she's going to say. I mean, I don't think she's unpredictable. I think a lot of people are predictable. But there's always that little element of, what is she going to say next? I never quite know. So it always makes my day and always makes me smile. She's just a fun person to be around. But in any case, I think that wraps up our gratitude for today. Oh, I'm grateful for her for being in my life, of course. I met her at Halls last year. Really grateful for that. But yeah, I think that wraps up today. See you all tomorrow, I hope. Tomorrow I'm going paintballing and then off to a friend's birthday party. So hopefully I have time to record something in between. But in any case, I will do one on Sunday. My Sunday, on New Zealand time. But have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Ben.